let's face it, making phone calls to customers at your dealership is probably one of the least desired tasks by most people there. Little do they realize what type of gold mine they actually have in front of them when it's done the right way. And let's face it, I remember when I got started over 20 years ago, working at Coggins Chevrolet out in Jacksonville, Florida. We had to make our 25 dials a day, and myself and almost all of the people on our sales team who were inconsistent performers all saw it like, oh man, I got to make these freaking calls. And what we would do is sit on and do our best, as opposed to trying to reach somebody. We just want to blast through the calls and would hope that we got somebody's voicemail. And if somebody actually picked up the phone, it would trip me up. I would get the fumbling and bumbling. Why? Because I never fully grasped exactly what it is that I was doing. The intention of that call is to gather information and, if need be, set an appointment for that individual or individuals to come into the dealership to either see the product, to have a conversation about it, whichever one. But that is the intention of the call, to make contact, gather information, and to set the next step between you and that guest. But what happens is, when most salespeople call, there's no game plan, there's no word track, it's just willy-nilly. And a lot of salespeople say, oh, I don't like scripts. It sounds scripted, it sounds robotic. Yeah, it sounds that way because you don't know it. Every movie that you've fallen in love with over your life was fake. It was manufactured. But the reason why you liked it is because the actor in it gave such a strong performance, made you laugh, made you cry, made you happy, made you sad. Now, this is a fake production, but the acting in it seemed real. And guess what? The words that they use, they got that right before production, and it's called the script. But they memorized those words to the point that when they projected it, they personalized it. As a matter of fact, they knew it so well that even if they had to ad-lib or improvise and add things in, they could do so without missing a beat. So the reason why word tracks or scripts sound scripted is because the individual don't know it. When in reality, a word track or a script is actually an excellent way to stay on task, because you don't have to worry about and think about what you're supposed to say. You already know it. It's kind of like a song you haven't heard in 5 or 10 years. You driving home and your jam pops on. You say, oh, that was my jam. Now you're not thinking about the words. They just flowing out. You driving with one hand, might be eating a sandwich and saying the words without any issue, without any thought. Or a scene to a movie that you and your friend or your significant other, your kids or whoever is acting out. Y'all are sitting there thinking about it. You know the scene and the words so well, you're performing as good as the actor. Guess what? Word tracks and sales are the same way. So when you're going to make a phone call to a prospect or to someone looking for information, you want to make sure that you know what you're going to say and know what the target is of the call. And so one excellent way for you to call and kick off the conversation with a guest is like this. Ring, ring. Hello, this is Dan. Dan, this is Brian over at Maxwell Ford. I just got some information that you were looking for some info on a 2023 Ford F-150. Am I speaking with the right Dan? Well, yeah. Okay, Dan. Well, the reason why I'm calling is to answer any questions that you may have or provide you with any information that you may be looking for. So what information can I provide for you, or what questions would you like asked, Dan? Now, let's think about what we just did right there. We didn't call talking about the weather. We didn't call talking about the game. And we did not create a hate crime. And when I say hate, H-A-Y-T. Which is, how are you today? Never asked that. I said, ring, ring. Hey, may I speak to Dan? This is Dan. Dan, this is Brian. Dan, I just got some information that you were looking for some additional info on a 2023 Ford F-150. Now, am I speaking to the right Dan, or am I speaking to the right person? Yeah, well, the reason why I'm calling is to answer any questions that you may have or provide you with any information that you may be looking for. So what questions do you have, or what information can I get for you? Now, when I called, they picked up. Ring, ring. Yes. Hey, may I speak to Dan? This Dan. Dan, this is Brian. I didn't say this is Brian Maxwell. Why? Because anybody that's familiar with somebody doesn't call and give their full name. I just say, hey, this is Brian over at Maxwell Ford. Now, what Dan is going to start doing is saying, Brian and Maxwell Ford, do I know this person? Do I have any? And then I'm explaining, Dan, I'm calling because I just got a request for some information on a 2023 Ford F-150. Am I speaking to the right person, or am I speaking to the right Dan? Now, the reason why we don't ask that is because sometimes in a household, like my son is a junior. And sometimes you have 3 generations in a household. Sometimes you might pick it up and it might be a brother you're talking to and they're just saying, yeah, because they're taking phone calls for the person. But it's not even the individual that you're speaking with. Or you may be talking to a significant other. You know, you want to make sure and confirm you're speaking to the right person. Last thing you want to do is go through a whole bunch of info and it's not even the right individual. And guess what? It's another opportunity for that person to say yes if it is them. So they say yes, cha-ching, that's a positive when we say that. Then you explain to them, hey, you just got a request for some information on a 2023 Ford F-150. You confirmed it's the right person. Then you explain, hey, Dan, my responsibility is to answer any questions that you may have, or the reason for my call is to answer any questions that you may have or provide you with any information that you may be looking for. So what information can I provide you with, or what questions can I help you with? Now, we just posed an option, 1 and 1. Okay, which one can I get some information for you, or what questions can I answer for you? And then right there, it gets the guest to start talking. Too many times the salesperson wants to try to steamroll and say things like, hey, I'm just calling to touch base with you. No, you're not. You are calling to reach out with the intention of hopefully gaining some information to set an appointment. It is not just to touch base. And what does that even mean? But yet it's one of the most common terms thrown out, and it means nothing. You're not their bookie. You're not their agent. You are not even a sports announcer. So why are you calling talking about sports? You're not a weather person. You're not a meteorologist. Why are you calling talking about the weather? You are a transportation product specialist or an automotive sales professional. Whatever title you've given yourself at your dealership, your only intention of the conversation is to find what automotive information would they like, or what automotive related questions they may have. Period. People respect professionalism, and the moment you drift off, you give indication that you're not a professional, your time is not valuable, and you must not be helping a lot of people. You could spend a whole lot of time talking about a whole lot of shit that doesn't mean anything and doesn't add value to them. They've got enough friends. They can turn on cable or go to their phone for the weather. They can look at ESPN for the sports. They need you for the information about your particular store. So give it to them. Be direct. Get to the point and ask questions. Good salespeople practice what to say. The great ones practice what to ask. Now, there's other things that, as the call further, that you want to ask, that you want to do, you want to set up. And it's too much for me to stuff all inside of this video. I just wanted to jump in and share some information with you on how to just start off the introduction of the call. But if you're looking for more ways and things that the question that you ask, the way that you handle the call, how do you guide this person through and ultimately set the appointment and get them in? I invite you to my free webinar, which is how to make high quality sales calls, leave voicemails, and send emails. Okay, the link is in the description or it's in the comments. It's absolutely free. It's a free webinar and it's not even very long, but I give you some real in-depth things to ask, ways to guide your guests throughout your phone interaction with them to ultimately set that appointment, because that's the only thing you're selling right there. You're not selling the vehicle on the phone. You're selling yourself, and you're selling the value of an appointment, and you're selling yourself as a resource to answer any questions and provide the information. That's it. But in the free webinar, I go in depth, not only on how to guide them through that process, through the next step, but also how to lock that appointment in and confirm it in a way that you may have never ever heard before. And that alone will increase your appointments, because there's a secret to confirming, to where if you get a person to confirm verbally, that's one thing. Get them to confirm verbally to somebody else, that's another. You get them to confirm verbally and with somebody else and write it down, it increases the likelihood of that person making that appointment as high as it can go as high as 80%. And when you have a 80% probability of somebody making an appointment, that's much better than a willy-nilly non-confirming appointment, and they might or they might not, and that ratio is really low when we do a poor job of confirming. So again, don't want to keep you too long. Click that link in the description. Click that link in the comments if you're looking for additional ways to make high quality sales calls, leave voicemails, and send emails. Other than that, I hope this helps you out. I hope all of the videos I post and share. And if you aren't connected with me, let's connect. If you aren't subscribed, subscribe. Other than that, I'm Brian Maxwell. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you at the dealership.